So whenever there's a new technology, there's always this initial moment of people saying, no, 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 we can't have it. But now, I mean, none of us could imagine teaching without a computer in the classroom.
Mhm. Hi, my name is Bruno Morlan, and I'm a social studies teacher in Lafayette, California. In this series, produced for Class Companion, I'm going to be interviewing teachers from across various disciplines and highlighting some of the exciting work that they're doing with their students. In each part of this series, I'm also going to be giving a short tutorial on how each teacher uses Class Companion. I'm incredibly thankful to Gil Rotblum for lending me some of his time and agreeing to be the first teacher that we feature on this series. Gil teaches AP European History in Brea, California. And I had the privilege of teaching alongside Gil for 6 years, and I can confidently say that he's one of the best AP teachers out there. In our conversation, Gil and I talked about some of the fun traditions that he has in his classroom. He'll also talk about how he incorporated Class Companion into his peer grading activities, despite initially being skeptical on how it would fit into his classroom routine. Finally, Gil will talk about what he's trying this year, using an entire class period to conference with his students one-on-one on the day after a test. Here's a little bit of our conversation.
My name is Gil Rotblum. I'm a teacher at Brea High School. This is year 22. So I'm in my 22nd year. I teach 5 sections of AP European history. I average about 30 kids per class, and I also coach swimming.
Have you done European history for almost all the time that I've known you? What really draws you to that subject in particular?
So I started teaching AP Euro about 16 years ago. I've always had a fascination with it. My dad was born in Poland. A lot of my family has European heritage, and then they moved to Israel. So that was kind of how I got really interested in it. And then I went through a big World War II phase when I was in high school and college. And then I've always been fascinated by the subject.
I remember that you have a really fun tradition that you have with your sophomores throughout the entire year. Do you want to talk a little bit about what that is?
Yeah, so we write down all the funny quotes that people say, and then we made a T-shirt. For years, that was kind of the tradition where we'd make a T-shirt, and then if you said something funny, then it got on the shirt, and it turned out to be a really fun thing. And one of my previous students, she is a teacher now in the district, and she still remembers the quotes that made the shirt.
Do you have like any like really memorable quotes, or like does she, like you said, remember the quote that she got put on the T-shirt?
She was a second language learner, and she was really fun, like great personality, but she couldn't get American idioms sometimes. And like she was like talking about how she always felt kind of different from her family. She goes, "Yeah, I'm the black bee of my family." The whole classroom stopped, like, the black bee, she goes, the outcast. Oh, the black sheep. Like,
That's really cool. Um, Now that you've been doing AP Euro for so long, where do you feel like you are in teaching this course? Like, I mean, you definitely have been successful in getting your kids to pass the test, but like, I guess, what do you see as like the next thing that you want to try out?
AI. I mean, that's where things are going. So right now, I'm using artificial intelligence to help me grade peer. We do a lot of peer grading, but what you find is like the middle to low, they kind of just do it and they don't really grade, or they don't understand how to grade. So you kind of miss kids who, like, if they're paired up with somebody who doesn't really understand how to grade, they're not really getting much out of it. So I've really been using AI for a short answer question, that section of the exam, and that's been very helpful because then kids can write it, they can get immediate feedback, and it's not a peer feedback where a student just gets it to get done or doesn't really do a good job on it. They get very good feedback.
Um, Going back a little bit, I guess, to the platform of Class Companion, when you heard about it, like, what did you think? What was your first approach to it?
I was skeptical. So I think the idea of doing something new when you already have a rhythm is just, it didn't work.
Mhm.
And then in the winter or the summer, I was kind of looking for something else, and I remember reaching out to you, and then I think you added me to the Facebook group, and
Mhm.
it was a good time for me to try something new. And so now what I do is we do about 2 SAQs per month, and then I always use AI. I use the Class Companion to do it. and that's been really helpful to get now kids get feedback.
In when you're setting up the two writing assignments for your students every month, like what do you do in preparation for it? Like, are you targeting a specific time period, content, or I mean, like even I guess the skill that you're focusing on in trying to teach the short answer question?
So I kind of did it like that, where we taught the ACE method for SAQ in the first month. And then I talk about how we use that ACE method in the DBQ for evidence beyond the documents. And then we also use it in the LEQ when we write our body paragraphs. So I said this skill is going to show up in all three writing assessments in the FRQ, SAQ, DBQ, and LEQ. So we practice SAQ twice a month, and I always practice it within the unit. Like we just did Unit 3, absolutism, and I think we did one on Louis the 14th, and I forget the other one that we did.
I'm going to step in here for a second and show you exactly how Gil set up his classes on Class Companion. I've already got a sample class named Gil Rotblum for my example here, and if you need help setting up your own class, you can check out the Class Companion tutorial series. So I'm going to go into the assignments, and you see that the assignment's already here, but the way that Gil found it is by looking in our template library. So I'm going to click Add Assignment on the top right, and then click Add from Template Library. I'm going to search for the assignment and type in Louis the 14th. And you'll see that there are two assignments. The one that Gil used is the one that's right here. It's the one that has an excerpt, and I can preview it by clicking on the right side here. I see that there is an excerpt and the 3 questions that are associated with it. I'm happy with it, so I'm going to click X, click the checkbox, and then add to my one class. Now all I have to do is set the number of attempts, and I'm going to leave it at 1 and click Continue, Publish Now. Now I'm going to show you what it looks like on the student side. I've created a sample student and I've named him Publius, and I'm going to look for the assignment that Gil assigned. It's right here on my assignments. You can see that it's in progress because I've already opened it. I have the same excerpt and the same question that Gil saw on his side, and I'm going to now paste an actual response that one of Gil's students submitted. To the letter A, identify one perspective about the leadership of King Louis XIV expressed in the excerpt. I said one perspective about the leadership of King Louis XIV was that although he had some successful conquest, King Louis couldn't do anything himself. He was self-centered. Louis XIV viewed himself, the Sun King, believing in absolute monarchy. He had the automatic rights to rule France and limits the nobility through the Palace of Versailles. The vain and self-centered Louis XIV heavily relied on assistance in regards to ruling and conquest, but had no problem spending France's money on beneficial things for himself. And in half the time that it took me to read through the response, the AI gave me some feedback. They said, great job. I've correctly identified a perspective about King Louis XIV's leadership. And it reaffirmed some of the things that I brought from the excerpts. The source indeed portrays him as self-centered and vain. So that first student didn't really need that much help from the AI. So I've created a separate student and I've named this one Brutus. I'm going to go back into the same assignment and I'm going to now feed it another response that another of Gil's students gave in this assignment. As you'll see in just a second, the response that this student provided is not fully correct, or at the very least, it didn't use the excerpt that the question provided in order to provide a correct response. And the AI is going to give me some feedback that is not only going to tell me whether it's right or wrong, but it's also going to give me the feedback that I need for the students to be able to do a correct response the next time that they attempt it. Okay, here we go. Back to Gil.
Yeah, I think it's great. I'm a really big fan of Class Companion. Lots of people in my department are using it already.
And what did the students think when they first used it?
They thought it was really cool. The one feedback I got, they want to have 2 attempts. So
Okay.
that was good to know, because one kid was all like, I want to see if I got it wrong the first time, can I get it right the second time? So that's been good. They thought it was cool. One kid I remember distinctly, our Wi-Fi sucks. This is so slow. I want it like feedback right away. I was like, it's less than a minute. Like, so that was kind of like a funny conversation. Like, yeah, like you're gonna have to wait just 1 minute.
Well, I mean, like based on that, like if they were to turn it into you, how long would it have taken for them to get it back? Or when was the last time that you actually did that for like practice SAQs?
I don't grade practice. That's the nice thing about class AI and Class Companion is I don't have time. I have 140 of them this year. And if I graded every practice assignment, I would be doing nothing but grading. So
Yeah.
it's just not time. It's not a good use of my time or their time to just have me grade. So then the type stuff.
Do you find that there's less cheating whenever you make these class companion assignments, like just for practice, not for a grade?
Yeah. If you make it for a grade, they're going to be really tempted to cheat. At least my population is.
Mhm.
If you make it ungraded and just tell them it's practice, kind of go back to that athlete thing is like, champions are made when the coach isn't looking. So, and the thing that I'm doing now that's been changing it for me is I do the day after a test or a quiz for a chapter, I do a reading day.
Okay.
So I give all the kids the Chromebooks and then they can read the chapter and start outlining. And so for that hour, they're reading the textbook.
Oh,
And then for that hour, I'm calling them up one at a time and I'm conferencing about their written exams. So
wow.
for our last exam was a context and thesis. And while the class is reading, I called them up one at a time and I'm like going through the points they earned and why according to the rubric. And that's been a game changer.
Just so you're doing like a conference period. That's cool.
Yeah. So this one period, like starting to read chapter 7, I have a stack of exams and
Mhm.
then calling you up one at a time. And it's been very helpful to have that one-on-one conversation because I
Mhm.
found like the kids who were struggling, like you were write all these detailed things about what you need to do, and they would just if they didn't like the grade, they would just crumple it up and like not
Yeah.
look at it.
Well, I want to end this with kind of all going in that same wavelength that you're describing that new strategy. As teachers, we normally always think about like the worst is about to come, and if we could end with your one positive prediction for what's yet to come in education.
I think um, the idea that technology is going to ruin things just historically is wrong. Radio and television and cell phones and computers. So whenever there's a new technology, there's always this initial moment of people saying, "No, no, no, we can't have it." But now, I mean, none of us could imagine teaching without a computer in the classroom.
Mhm.
So you have to, as for me, what I do whenever I get into those things or those moments, I embrace change rather than run away from it, and that has really made a game changer for me. And then if you get people who are on those negative tangents, I just don't talk to them.
It's great advice. I want to thank Gil one more time for sharing his experience with us, and I hope that you will come back and join us for the next conversation that we have. I'll see you then.